As soon as you move closer to the rim, it's going to sound more ringing and resonant. And if you move closer to the center of the head, it's going to sound deader and like more of a thud. So that's why it matters that you are the same distance around the ring. So when you're playing like this, you're not going to play with the right hand in the same position that you would here. You're going to actually have to move the right hand up above, so it's the same distance from the rim, or your right hand's going to go thud, and then your left hand's going to ring more, okay? And then the opposite on the other hand. So this would make it so that this is resonant, and this is very dead sounding, okay? So when you play, you're going to kind of do like this weird windshield wiper thing, where your hands are going to stay equidistant from the rim while you're moving around, and it will make it so that your sound better. All right, so while I was doing that, I was trying to focus on maintaining a straight line from one drum to the next. So when I was going across all three, I was trying to go straight across and start with the most efficient motion possible. So start from here, move towards the center, and then get to the closest part of the rim that I could get. So I'm basing this off of some ideas from this book, from Quad Logic. So in the beginning, like Bill Bachman talks about like the different ways that you should move across the drum, how you should move, etc. So I highly recommend taking a look at this book. It is a fantastic resource. This is the 5/4 Velvet Nights shopping spree. This particular play along can go as slow as 20 beats a minute, or as fast as 160. And there are hundreds more like this in the link on the screen. So check out my website or go to the playlist on my YouTube channel. The t-shirt, Obsessive Compulsive Percussion Disorder, that I'm wearing right now. I obsess over my practicing in order to improve my playing. That attention to detail that I learned while marching snare carries over into so much of what I do in life, and I highly recommend that other people develop that, not only the discipline involved with drumming, but the attention to detail and the consistency. Whether it's lesson plans that I've created, or the teaching that I do, or the videos I create, there's an attention to detail in there that is a result of having practiced refining my attention to detail through drumming, and just letting that focus and intensity carry over into other things I do or create. Now, you may notice that I'm looking down when I'm practicing this, the sweeps in particular, and the reason why is because these pads don't really have that big of a tone change as you would get on actual drums. So on the edge, near the rim, you would hear more of a resonant tone, and as you move closer towards the center, you would hear more of a dead thud. That's very helpful if you are looking forward, like if you're at set or something, to be able to just not look down at your drums. You can hear bong, bong, bong versus when you get towards the middle. When you're practicing on pads, it's a little bit harder, so that's why I'm kind of like intentionally looking down to make sure that my spacing between one sweep and the next is as efficient or as effective as possible. So I'm using the rudiment hammer sticks, and they are double taped. So these are heavier than the sticks that I would normally perform with. So heavier sticks make it so that when you switch over to these lighter ones, like they just feel super easy. And so it's like one way that I personally work on like my chops and endurance and whatnot. Do not overdo it though. I know some people who have torn their like tendons because they use like hammers to practice their finger technique, which for timpani, which was just like a horrible idea. So they literally like shredded their tendons, and yeah, now they can't practice. So don't do that. One of the things that you want to pay attention to when using this particular tool to go from slow to fast to slow is to check to see if there are any like gray zones where all of a sudden your technique just gets really bad or your playing gets really iffy, and then all of a sudden it starts to feel better. What that means is you are transitioning from a slow technique to a fast technique, and you have this middle ground where your hands or your brain are not really quite sure which technique should I use, my slow one or my fast one. And I'm noticing an issue here with my left hand not getting far enough over. So you ideally want to make it so that your slow technique matches how you're going to play it fast. So practice in a way that allows you to do that. I'm not getting my second note of the left hand over far enough, which is what I'm now focusing on, as opposed to just talking, which is screwing me up. It still sounds terrible, but I'm happy with it. Like, it's making progress. That's the thing with like practicing, is it's not going to sound great, but as long as you can notice the improvements, then that can be very motivating. Even if it doesn't sound good yet, like, you know where it's headed. At least I'm able to do that because I've been playing for over 20 years. So I know what it's like to struggle on many different instruments. Like when I was a band director, I had to learn every band and orchestra instrument, and they all sounded terrible when I first started. And then I just slowly got better and better and better. And so when you build up those like small wins, then it can kind of add up over time where you're comfortable struggling with things, which is why you see me practice during these live streams, stuff that I'm terrible at, and I'm comfortable sharing that with thousands of people because I'm slowly getting better. This version of Grid puts the rudiment right before an accent, which is an excellent way to work on upstrokes after rudiment. This other version of Grid puts the rudiment after the accent, which is an excellent way of working on rudiments at tap height after an accent. The link on the screen directs you to several hundred Grid play-alongs and thousands of hours of free content. We don't want to do crossovers where we're doing Julie Spencer technique that I'll demonstrate on drum kit and whatnot, or on marimba. Don't want to do that. You're going to get different sound qualities and whatnot. So keep the wrist and forearm in alignment and move here, and the motions are going to be bigger for wrist over wrist crossover than it is for stick over stick. Unlike Around the Worlds, which has a stick over stick crossover in terms of how close they are, this gets your full wrist crossing over the other stick. Whoops. And you have to move much further in the same amount of time as Around the Worlds. So windmills, in my opinion, are honestly harder to get consistent, and just like harder physically, it's more demanding than Around the Worlds are. Although Around the Worlds hit more drums in different ways, in my opinion, these are the harder of the two. I missed a shot. Eminem would be so disappointed. All of these play-alongs are on my website, jaredoleary.com/drum. There's a ton of chop stuff, some drum kit stuff, over 500 Grid variations, and some lessons and some technique stuff. So should keep you and me busy for quite some time. Check it out, jaredoleary.com/drum. It's all free.